What is an interesting thing about this book Redirect also is how to internalize moral rules into kids they mainly look at. And one experiment they did was to let kids play with a number of toys, but have one toy in there, the robot, and they were not allowed to play with the robot. And they divided it in two groups, and one group they gave a more severe threat not to play with the robot, and one a more mild threat. And both was enough for the kids not to play with the robot. But the thesis of the book is that the internal story editing of the kids will be different. If the kids get the severe threat, then their story editing will be we didn't play with the robot because this guy was so mad at us if we did. And with the mild threat, they could not use the threat as an explanation, and they made up another explanation why they did not play with the robot. And the researchers say this explanation was that they did not like the robot very much, because they asked in the end, how much do you like the robot? And the children that got the mild threat did claim not to like the robot very much, or less at least than the kids that got the severe threat. And they checked again 3 weeks later, and they let the kids play a game, electronic bowling game, in which they could win a prize. The thing was that the electronic bowling game, they could win a prize and the researcher would be gone. They would be alone with the game, and it would be an opportunity to cheat with the game. And that was necessary also because the game would break off just before the prize was there. And then the researcher came in and asked these kids how much points they had if they would deserve a prize, and they could lie about that and take the prize. They would have the idea that no one could have seen that. And it turned out that even 3 weeks later, that the kids, and there were different researchers, so there were researchers who did not know which of the kids had a mild threat with a robot 3 weeks earlier or a severe threat. And it turns out that almost no kids who got the mild threat earlier cheated on this game. So and a substantial amount of the kids that had the severe threat cheated on the game. So the researchers claim that what happens is that the mild threat kids told themselves, I'm a good, obedient, rule-abiding kid, and I am someone who does not cheat. And even 3 weeks later, they still did not cheat on this bowling game, and the other ones did. So that is also the thesis of the whole book, is that that mild threats have a longer lasting, better effect, because the subject thinks that he has forgotten about the threat, and he thinks that he must really want that himself. Another experiment they did was with a car. They had a little, I think were, I don't know how old they were, I think 7 or 8 years old kids. And they let them in a room play with a car that ran around a track. And they told these kids to make sure the car did not jump the track, and they had some ways to accomplish that. Then the researcher left the room, and the kids focused on the race car, but after a while they got bored, they looked away, they didn't pay attention to it anymore, and the car immediately jumped the track then, because some other researcher was keeping an eye on that. And now they did two things. They again had a control group, two groups of kids. They partitioned them, and to one group they put the focus on a guilt feeling. So they said, well, you must feel really guilty that you did not do what you were supposed to do, like keep this car on the track. And other kids felt guilty when they did not do what they were supposed to do. So that was one message going out to one group of kids. And to another group of kids, they said, well, you must feel really bad that you got caught to let the car jump off the track. Other kids felt bad when they got caught letting the car jump off the track. And the difference here in these two approaches is, of course, that one works with guilt and the other one works with fear of getting caught. And what the researchers did in subsequent is that they gave the kids a new car, showed him how if the car jumped the track they could put it back on again, and then they left the room again and watched, they measured how long the kids now focused on keeping this or managing this car on the track. And it turned out that the kids who were programmed with guilt, or more or less put in the direction of guilt, watched much longer, significantly longer at the track than the kids who were programmed with you must feel bad about being caught. Because the researchers explained it like these kids, the latter kids, must have thought a story editing, well, it's just the getting caught part that is the problem, and therefore if I manage to put the car back on the track and I've just learned that, then it's no problem that he jumps the track and I can do all kind of other things that I like to do. It's just important not getting caught. And the other ones who were steered in the guilt direction, that had a much longer effect. And I think that's also why the government works very much with this guilt redemption scheme. So they make, like the Federal Register now, like I told, 81,540 pages of laws. So you are always guilty, and guilty is redemption, and that works much better than pulling out the gun right away and trying to take people's money, because they will edit the story then much more like, oh, I obey the government because they put a gun to my head. And the whole trick with programming with guilt and steering, of course you have to start with young people, and when you program it in their heads, it will stay in their heads when they grow up. They will be very guilt prone and easily manipulatable with guilt, and plunderable, if that is a correct word. And the book continues with a lot of programs, like government programs like the DARE program, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. It is implemented in 75% of the schools, and life skills training is also anti-smoking and drugs. The Head Start program that went on for 33 years and billions of dollars before they started to test whether it has a effect with a proper control group. And they had some more programs. The Scare Straight program, I told about it in my previous video, showing them very scary stuff. Healthy Families American program to prevent child abuse. So a lot of these things, and a lot of these programs do not work, and they even have the opposite effect. They have a few programs where, I think that was one where a policeman comes into the classroom and tells kids, you should not use drugs, they're very, very bad. And yeah, the effect is that when the kids get confronted with a policeman in the class, and you could argue that, yeah, that is an addict, basically an addict of violence. He makes his money through coercion, and the teacher also makes his or her money through coercion, and they are giving you moral lessons, right? That is already quite ridiculous. But the fact that this policeman comes and tells you don't use drugs edits the kids' stories to that. Oh, this must be really great. That it must be something that I really want, these drugs. And some of these cases, you actually see indeed that there are kids that went to this program compared to those who did not go into a program like that actually have a higher rate of alcohol abuse, more violence, more teen pregnancies, all these things that were so-called trying to prevent by the government. And that I will not say that it is a complot or something that they consciously try to achieve the opposite. I don't think that is a conscious process, but I do think that somehow on another level they do try to achieve the opposite. And it is not, if I read then that in Afghanistan after the occupation the drug opium production has never been as high, then record heights, and you see pictures of American soldiers walking in between the poppy harvest, then you can wonder that of course a lot of money is being made there by the people who transport it from Afghanistan to the market in United States. And if you have very dependent people and they feel very guilty about it, then you can always throw them in jail. You can you don't get a lot of resistance fighting back, and you can make a lot of money at the same time on them. So I don't tend to think that it is someone is consciously plotting that out, because I think if you were to consciously plot this kind of stuff out, it would fail, because a lot of things, the best things, the best working methods do not go consciously after planning, but they are kind of on a low level, on an automatic pilot program. They instinctively feel how to quickly adjust everything so it falls right into place and you get the right result. The best working things go on instinct, or instinct, maybe very early learned behavior, learned from observation and not from a textbook. You cannot learn this kind of stuff from a textbook and plot and put a diagram or flowchart how you're gonna accomplish this. This is just pushing and feeling resistance and noticing this works and hey, this has effect here, and so. But it is quite remarkable how this works with this this programming of guilt, and that can be done by framing the reaction, giving the kid, or I think also the government does it also with their tax serves, by giving them a handle of a framing of their experience. So I thought I'd go a little bit more into this book, Redirect it's called, and hope you like it. This was it.